Hi, I'm John Samuel, Director of Network. I have responsibility for network, core services, and security infrastructure. I'm responsible for around 45,000 endpoint users. And if you count contractors and all the endpoints, it'll be around 80 to 90K. We were initially looking at ThousandEyes, even before the pandemic hit, for our journey into the cloud. We wanted to look at ThousandEyes as a strategic tool to get visibility outside of data center to see how our application is performing when the path is changing from a workstation perspective, from an application perspective, and overall user experience perspective. And therefore, we thought if we can map the user or application journey end to end and have full visibility to that journey, our cloud migration itself can be very successful. And ThousandEyes was a big part of the strategy. But as the pandemic hit, our understanding of what an office shifted. Our understanding what workforce looks like also shifted at the same time. The model that we had was where we have majority of workforce working from home, and it flipped on its head. We went from supporting 450 offices to having 45,000 users spread across the globe. Prior to the pandemic, our approach to remote access and those populations was very different. What we'll be thinking is, hey, your primary way of connecting is from the office, and when you're connecting from the home, it is your ISP and you manage your ISP and therefore it's your problem. But our productivity and our business depended on the workforce that's homebound now, and which meant that we have to really rethink our strategy. We wanted to be able to give the same kind of experience for our associates as they are working from home or where they are working from office. And ThousandEyes was a big part of that strategy. And ThousandEyes gave that visibility that we desperately needed from an user perspective, from the home all the way through the internet to the application. We were able to get the path tracing, and we were able to bring the story of the end user from an experience perspective as part of this process. So we used Endpoint Agent, the Cloud Agent, and Enterprise Agent together to get better correlated data. We could get the same information from an application performance journey perspective from endpoints, from users' home, and look at the same data from a cloud agent perspective as to if they are dispersed globally. And also from an enterprise perspective for somebody coming from inside the network. And we were able to correlate all of this data to see where the root cause is and where the problem is. And that allowed us to zero in on the problem quickly and resolve it. We were able to create operational metric based on user data. And when we met with business, we were able to really show the data, show the user experience all the way from the workstation to the application, and then have a conversation as to how infrastructure performed in the overall performance of the application. That was a big factor in the conversation with the business. So when we look at that, we know that performance impacts user experience, and which also impacts productivity. And when business is concerned about productivity, the performance metric gained a new dimension when we were able to demonstrate the value that our infrastructure is providing to the overall performance of the application. The other big value that ThousandEyes gave us is the map. And we, like I said, we were able to create that application journey. And when we started having that conversation around the application journey and how the infrastructure is performing around that application, it was a big aha moment for the stakeholders. And it helped us close the communication between the business and IT, because previously the conversation would have been, hey, how's the infrastructure doing? The router is healthy, the circuit is good, we don't see any errors or logs. But we are able to say, beyond that, we understand your application, and we know how infrastructure is performing for the good performance of the application. And that really made a big difference in our stakeholder communication. One use case is around ISP monitoring. We were able to instrument ThousandEyes across each individual ISPs in a way that we can get specific measurements for latency and jitter and packet loss across each of the ISP. What it meant is that our support teams, including the NOC or other engineering resources, were able to quickly pinpoint as to which of the ISPs is having issue, rather than saying that generally there is an issue with internet. That meant that we were able to resolve the issues quickly. And ThousandEyes also provided us this data as leading indicator, right? Rather than waiting for issues to happen. We were able to see the latency is going up, the packet loss is increasing, and NAC was able to use this data as leading indicator to proactively address this issue. And we are also able to now look at where exactly the problem is in the ecosystem of tools and environment that we have. I'll give you an example. There was an issue that we had with a credit card processing agency. And the issue was neither on our side of the ISP or their side of the ISP. And ThousandEyes gave us the intelligence to show exactly where in between in the internet infrastructure itself in the cloud that the issue is. So what it meant is that we were able to say, hey, we don't see an issue on our side or on the other side of the infrastructure, but we were able to go to the ISP that had issues and solve those issues. We were able to use the same principles to go to Microsoft Zscaler and Akamai to pinpoint where exactly is the issue and where the root cause is. That meant better collaboration with these providers and faster resolution of the issues. We had a small subset of senior executives where we gave white glove experience. As you can imagine, senior executive may not have the skill set or may not have the availability to troubleshoot with us. So we created a custom group of these users in ThousandEyes. And what it gave is a dashboard for our support teams to really know what's going on in their environment. And when there was an issue, we were able to quickly reach out to the executives and say, hey, we need to really look at the router that you have at home, your wireless network, or probably say, hey, we need to really look at the ISPs differently because we are seeing constant issues with the ISP. And those conversations were a lot more easier because we had the data from ThousandEyes to have those conversations. I'll give you a funny example. I had a conversation with our CEO once, and he said, hey, I'm having issues with my home network. And there was this garage guy, he seemed to understand networking. So when he came to repair the garage, I asked him to look at the router. He seemed to have fixed the network. But ever since he did that, I have inconsistent performance. Can you look at it? And we looked at ThousandEyes, and we were able to quickly find out that the devices were connected wrong, and the phone was connected to the wrong port. And that allowed us to bring the right people into his environment and fix it quickly. And these are type of use cases where we see ThousandEyes gives us the visibility when you are at home to be able to solve those issues very quickly. My biggest message for anybody who asks me, hey, what do we do to make sure that ThousandEyes as a deployment is successful? My answer to that is figure out how do you want to use ThousandEyes, because this can be tailored in so many different ways. Depending on the user group who's going to use it, whether it's NOC or whether it's an engineer or executive, we can tailor the tool to provide the right level of visibility to do the job right. So that's really the key to the success. And having that strategy around how ThousandEyes will be used in the ecosystem of tools will definitely make sure that you'll have successful deploying ThousandEyes.